Try something strange for a moment. Don't breathe. Just pause your breathing for a few seconds while listening to this. Notice how quickly your body starts feeling uncomfortable. Your chest tightens, your brain starts demanding air, and within moments your body forces you to inhale again. It feels like breathing is something you control, something you decide to do. But here's the disturbing reality. You don't actually control most of your breathing at all. Right now, while you're listening to this, your brain is running a silent life support system that you're barely aware of. Every few seconds, it sends electrical signals to the muscles in your chest, telling them to expand and contract. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. It's been doing this since the day you were born, thousands of times a day, millions of times over your lifetime. But here's a question that sounds simple, yet becomes terrifying once you really think about it. What would happen if that system suddenly stopped working? Not your lungs, not the oxygen around you, just the command from your brain disappearing. Would you instantly suffocate? Would your body automatically fix the problem? Or could something much stranger happen first? Imagine this scenario. Tonight, you go to sleep like normal. Your room is quiet. Your heart is beating steadily. Your lungs are perfectly healthy. There is plenty of oxygen in the air around you. But deep inside your brain, a tiny group of neurons responsible for controlling breathing suddenly fails to send its next signal. Your chest doesn't rise. 10 seconds pass, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, and the most unsettling part is that you might not even notice it happening. Because the truth is, breathing is not controlled by your lungs. It's controlled by your brain. And if the wrong part of your brain stops working, your body can literally forget how to breathe. It sounds impossible, yet doctors and neuroscientists know that this exact situation can actually happen under certain conditions, and when it does, the consequences can be terrifying. To understand why, we need to explore the hidden system inside your brain that quietly keeps you alive every second. Deep inside your head, beneath the larger thinking regions of your brain, lies a structure called the brainstem. And within the brainstem sits one of the most important survival centers in the human body, the medulla oblongata. This small structure acts like a biological metronome, generating the rhythm of your breathing. Specialized neurons inside this region fire electrical signals down your spinal cord every few seconds. Those signals activate the muscles controlling your diaphragm and chest. Your diaphragm contracts, your lungs expand, air rushes into your body. Then the signal stops. Your diaphragm relaxes, air flows back out. This cycle repeats again and again, roughly 20,000 times every single day. And the most fascinating part is that it happens automatically, whether you're awake, asleep, focused on something else, or completely unconscious. Your brain is quietly managing the process in the background without asking for your attention. But here's the question most people never ask themselves: what if that rhythm suddenly stopped? Imagine you're asleep late at night. Your breathing is calm and steady. Your brainstem is sending its normal signals to inhale and exhale. Everything is working exactly as it should, but then, without warning, those signals pause. The command to inhale doesn't arrive. Your chest stays still. Your lungs wait. Seconds pass. 10 seconds, 15 seconds, 20 seconds. And the strangest part of all is that you might not wake up immediately, because when breathing is automatic, it operates completely outside your conscious awareness. This scenario might sound like science fiction, but it actually happens in real medical conditions. One of the most fascinating and frightening examples is a disorder known as central sleep apnea. In this condition, the brain occasionally stops sending breathing signals while a person sleeps. Unlike obstructive sleep apnea, where the airway becomes physically blocked, the lungs in this case are perfectly capable of breathing. The airway is clear, oxygen is available, but the brain simply fails to deliver the command. For several seconds at a time, breathing completely stops. Oxygen levels slowly begin to fall, while carbon dioxide quietly builds up in the bloodstream. Eventually, the brain senses the imbalance and triggers a brief awakening that restarts breathing. The person may not even remember waking up, yet this cycle can repeat dozens or even hundreds of times in a single night. And that raises a chilling question. What would happen if the brain never sent that restart signal? To answer that, we need to understand something surprising about why we breathe in the first place. Most people assume breathing is triggered by a lack of oxygen. But in reality, the primary signal that forces your body to breathe is actually carbon dioxide. Every time your cells produce energy, they release carbon dioxide as a waste product. That gas dissolves in your blood and gradually begins to accumulate. Special sensors in your brain constantly monitor carbon dioxide levels. When those levels rise too high, your brain sends an urgent signal to breathe. That breath flushes out carbon dioxide and brings fresh oxygen into your body. It's a finely tuned feedback loop that keeps your blood chemistry perfectly balanced. But if the brain loses the ability to monitor carbon dioxide or send breathing commands, the system begins to fail. At first, the effects are subtle. Carbon dioxide levels rise slowly, making the blood slightly more acidic. Your body begins to feel restless and uncomfortable. Your heart rate may increase as your body attempts to compensate. Within a minute or two, oxygen levels begin dropping dangerously low. Brain cells are extremely sensitive to oxygen deprivation, and as oxygen levels fall, those cells start malfunctioning. Vision becomes blurry, awareness fades, confusion begins to set in. If oxygen deprivation continues for several minutes, permanent brain damage can occur. Yet, incredibly, there are people who live with a condition where their brain forgets how to breathe every single night. It's called congenital central hypoventilation syndrome, often referred to by the haunting nickname Ondine's curse. Individuals born with this rare disorder have a malfunction in the automatic breathing system of the brain. When they are awake, they can consciously control their breathing like anyone else. But the moment they fall asleep, the automatic breathing signal shuts down. Without assistance, their bodies simply stop breathing during sleep. Many patients rely on ventilators or specialized breathing devices that keep air moving through their lungs throughout the night. Imagine living with the knowledge that falling asleep could become dangerous unless a machine takes over the breathing process for you. This condition reveals something deeply unsettling about human biology. Automatic breathing is not guaranteed. It's a neurological program that must run continuously without interruption. And it can be disrupted in other ways as well. Brainstem strokes, traumatic brain injuries, neurological diseases, and certain drug overdoses can all damage the neural circuits responsible for breathing. When doctors treat patients whose brains can no longer control breathing, they often rely on mechanical ventilators to keep those patients alive. These machines push air into the lungs and pull it back out, effectively replacing the brain's breathing signal. In those situations, survival depends entirely on technology performing the job the brain once handled effortlessly. But there's another fascinating detail about the breathing system that most people never realize. Your brain actually operates two breathing systems at the same time. The first system is automatic, controlled by the brainstem. The second system is voluntary, controlled by higher regions of the brain responsible for conscious thought. That's why you can deliberately take a deep breath, slow your breathing during meditation, or hold your breath underwater. Your conscious brain temporarily overrides the automatic breathing rhythm. But no matter how determined you are, the automatic system always wins eventually. If you hold your breath long enough, carbon dioxide levels rise until the brain forces you to breathe again. Even if you try to resist, the brain overrides your decision and activates the breathing muscles. It's a built-in survival mechanism designed to keep you alive, unless the automatic system itself has stopped working. If the brainstem breathing circuits fail completely, conscious breathing can only sustain you for a short time. Eventually, fatigue, distraction, sleep, or unconsciousness takes over. Without the automatic breathing signal, the body cannot maintain life. Scientists studying these breathing circuits have discovered that the rhythm of breathing is generated by specialized networks of neurons that function almost like a biological pacemaker. These neurons fire in carefully timed patterns that create the inhale-exhale cycle. Some neurons trigger inhalation, others control exhalation, and others monitor oxygen and carbon dioxide levels in the bloodstream. Together, they form one of the most critical life support systems in the human body. In fact, the moment a newborn baby takes its first breath after birth, this neural network activates and begins running continuously. From that first breath onward, the breathing rhythm rarely stops for the rest of a person's life. It continues while you sleep, while you dream, while you're sick, while you're unconscious, and even while you're completely unaware of it happening. By the time you reach adulthood, your brain may have already triggered hundreds of millions of breaths without you ever noticing them. Yet behind that reliability lies a fragile truth. Breathing feels automatic because the system is incredibly consistent, but it still depends on tiny clusters of neurons buried deep inside the brainstem. If those neurons stop functioning, the lungs themselves cannot start breathing on their own. They are simply waiting for instructions. Without the brain's command, the muscles responsible for breathing remain still. So what would truly happen if your brain forgot how to breathe? The answer is both simple and deeply unsettling. Your lungs would still be capable of breathing. The air around you would still contain oxygen. But without the signal from your brain, your diaphragm would not contract. Your chest would not expand. Air would not move in or out of your lungs. Oxygen levels would slowly fall while carbon dioxide rises. Consciousness would fade as brain cells begin struggling to survive without oxygen. Within minutes, the brain itself would begin shutting down. In other words, the cause wouldn't be damaged lungs or a lack of air. The cause would simply be that the control system stopped giving instructions. And the strangest part of this entire story is that while you've been listening to this explanation, your brain has quietly continued its job without asking for your attention. It has triggered breath after breath after breath while you focused on something else entirely. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. A silent rhythm repeating thousands of times every day, millions of times every year. A process so automatic that most people go their entire lives without noticing it. But now that you're thinking about it, you might suddenly become aware of your next breath, and the one after that. For a brief moment, you might even feel like you're the one controlling the process. Yet eventually, your attention drifts away again. And when it does, your brain quietly resumes control, continuing the rhythm that has kept you alive since the day you were born. Which leaves one final question worth thinking about. If breathing is something your brain has been managing silently your entire life, how many breaths have already happened without you ever noticing them? And what would the world feel like if just once that silent system suddenly stopped?